live. Going live. We are live. Okay, welcome to Worldwide Slot Car Chat on Zoom, episode 194. I'm your host, Greg Gao, back from the dead. The gang is all here. We got Courtney and Ed and Luff and Gaza and John and Mike and Don and Jim and David and Mario and John and another David and Dennis and Big Dan and Garth and other people. We have a special presentation for you today to start off with. David is going to show us some of the things that he's been working on with regards to autonomous slot cars in the digital world. So David, I'll let you go ahead and do whatever you want to do, share your screen, and we'll wing it.
Thank you. Thank you to everybody. My name's David Goldberg, and I live in South Carolina. I'm retired. I first started slot cars in 1959 in Melbourne, Australia. So I've been doing it for a while. About 5 years ago, I set out. Hello? About 5 years ago, I set out to build a new slot car system with two goals. The first goal was to have the computer control the race cars, either on their own or in competition with people, so that people who are home and have these slot cars and there's no one to race against, they can race against the computer. And the other thing I was looking at was a comprehensive race management system to race it. I know there's a lot of race management systems out there, but I wanted to build one which was basically around the automation itself. So quickly going, let me put this up here. The program I have has many modules to it. What I'd like to do is just basically show you a couple of these modules. Let me figure out how to share this screen. How do I share the screen again? Gotcha. You got to bear with me here. I haven't
click share, and then you click the screen that you want to share, so screen, and then you click share at the bottom of that window. That's usually the part that people miss, is that final clicking share.
Are you seeing the screen now? Oh, I see. Share.
There we go.
You got it. So yep. I'll just go through a few parts of the system. I first cover the software, and then I'll cover the electronics. The first part of the system I wanted to hit on is the actual track design and what I've done with it. And this is my track here. It's very simplistic. And what I've done is indicated on this track where I'm going to place the infrared gates, the traps that I will set up, which will help manage the race and resync the cars when they get out of timing into problems. I also put next to these traps what their main indications are. For example, I do have a facility of running DRS, so I can activate DRS. I can start the speed trap for the main straight. I can have running sectors. I can use it for entering the pit lanes, etc. So I won't go into how this is set up. I mean, I can do it for any particular track out there that you want to design. It's not just specific to mine. It's generic program. And I'll show you what these traps are or gates are used for a little bit later. Once I've set up the track in the system, I need to capture the timing and the speeds of the cars and put them on a database so I can use them later to race the cars. And I do that through a qualifying mechanism. I've actually had this program here that sets up the qualifications for my race. In this instance, I've given it 4 cars. I can have it up to 6, obviously. I tell the system the percentage of brake and throttle and fuel, etc., that I want to race, whether it has DRS, what type of tires, what type of refueling, all that side of goodness that I don't need to go through right now. And then I actually run a qualification race. And what I do there is I run 3 well, I can run as many as I like, but I actually physically start this running, and I can't do it now because I'm not connected to the track. And I take each car and I race it around the track, say 10 laps. and I do it 3 times for each car. And while it's running, it's recording all of the speeds and times into my database for each of these cars on each of the 10 laps. And it's registering when it passes through all of those gates also, so I can sync them. Once I've done this, I can then analyze this data, and basically I can load, for example, this is one car, I've done 2 qualifying laps, and this is the timing information I have built and stored in the database. It doesn't mean anything to you guys right now, but it is used at a later point to run the cars. Sorry about that. So after I've built this set of data, I'm now in a position where I can run the race. Again, there's a lot more involved in it, but I'll just go through this part here. This is the screen that allows me to run the race. You can see it's multiple, 6 steering wheels, and each steering wheel can display speed, throttle, RPM, gears, etc. One of the videos that is on the YouTube actually shows this screen working. So if you wanted to look at it, I don't know, Greg, if you've sent the links to the other people or not, but they're there. You can look at it, and it's quite comprehensive. It records the fastest lap. It records sector times. It actually has tire wear, brake wear, fuel wear. The whole lot is built into it. So in a nutshell, it's a very quick overview of how I build the track, how I race the cars to record the times, and how I then race the actual car itself. Let me bring that down. Just a quick one here. Sorry about that. I'll show you the database just so you get some idea. Everything I record is based on the Carrera timing mechanism. So every 0.075 microseconds, there is a save has been made of the data. Hold on, what am I doing here? Hold on. Where are we? The top of this thing is killing me. Hold on. How do I lower the top so it doesn't interfere with my screen?
You should be able to just drag that whole toolbar over to the side or to the bottom of the screen.
Oh, thank you. So this is my track data that I've set up. I have 4 cars in here. And as you'll notice, there's time gaps of 0.075. Gives me the actual, the track, the series, the car, the driver. There's the gates that it goes through. And these are the different speeds that the car is running at as it hits these particular time intervals in a race. Okay, and that's just a simple database. I just thought I'd show it to you. Moving on to the electronic side, there are 4 basic sets of electronics you need to build in order to race this. The first one is similar to the Carrera track. You need to put in IR gates into the system. And I think I've got a little picture here of one that I've built. How do you expand this little bugger? It's not a very good picture of one. So here's my track here. You may be able to see there's a little infrared light that I've put in on both of these. I don't know if it's clear to you out there. I connect that to a little board, sends the signal from there to what I call the gate microprocessor. So each gate, each trap has 2 infrared lights. When the car breaks the beam of those, and the IR lights read the signal from the car, the first piece of electronics sends that data to a gate microprocessor. The microprocessor can control up to 4 sets of gates, in other words, 8 lights. And then that microprocessor will send the data to my PC currently through radio Wi-Fi. It's not the greatest. I'm working on improving that, but it does work. So the first set of electronics is to read the IRs from when the cars pass over them. The second set of electronics is the actual gate microprocessor. The third set of electronics I have is the rail microprocessor. It's the same type of processor. It's just an Arduino Nano, costs about $8. And what it does is it reads all the signals that are sent down the rail, whether that be a programming signal or a car signal, it reads it. And I selectively take that data and again wirelessly transmit that to the PC. That's the third piece of hardware. The fourth piece is this one here. Obviously, I need to have some hardware where the PC can read these signals. And what I've done is I've bought these little guys from China. All they are is just USB NR 24L, in other words, radio wireless receiver transmitters. They cost about $10 each, something like that. And the last piece of hardware I need is the one that connects to the actual control unit from Carrera. And this is the one that Ed helped me with significantly. I couldn't get the wiring down correctly to start with, and I blew one of the controllers, but Ed helped me enormously, and now I have that built. And to give you an example, that there is as simple as it looks. It's just a nano Arduino microprocessor with a couple of little diode and resistors on it. You'll notice it's got the built-in Wi-Fi. There's the plug that connects it directly into the CU. And this is the guts of the matter. This guy is what runs the actual commands to the CU that runs the car. And that's basically it in a nutshell. I know I don't have a lot of time. I won't waste people's time. I went through it rather quickly. So if anyone has any questions, I'm very willing to answer them for you.
Let me go ahead and show the video. This is just one of the videos that shows the cars in motion. And I think it shows very well them speeding up and slowing down. Especially when they come down that hill. All three of these are autonomous, right?
All three of those are running through the computer, and you'll see the screen on the, I've moved through with the camera, you'll see the screen there, and you'll see how that screen is connected to the little nano that I showed you. There's another one there taken of a nighttime, and that will show you the car's braking. And there's another one showing you that actual screen itself.
Yeah, I went ahead and put links to all the videos that you shared in the chat. So if anybody wants to look at all the videos, or just one of them and then look at your channel to look at the rest of them, I'll also put that in the description.
The state that I'm in right now is that the actual software is probably about 80% written. I do have to debug a few things and add a little bit to it. The electronics I've done after multiple different attempts at it. I've got this one working. It's working rather well, but not to my liking. And the problem is that it is not fast enough. when each car runs over one of these IR traps or gates, it needs to signal back to the computer and needs to react very quickly. And the problem is it's not. Let me show you this. Here. Am I still on the screen? Is this still sharing?
No, I stopped your share because you were holding up the thing and you can't see the camera very well when you're sharing. So you'll have to restart your share.
Okay, I have to start that again, do I? Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
I'll show you this particular screen. Can you now see your screen? Okay, move that aside. Okay. Now, oh, bugger, I'm locked. Yeah, let me do this one again. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Got plenty of time.
So, I built this little program in order to help me, and hopefully it will show you. This is my track, and what you're looking at here is the actual time speed of this particular car, the Mercedes car. You'll notice that they've got gaps. The gaps vary, and the varying gaps are the speed of the car. So that's a gap for a 9-speed, that's a gap for 11-speed, and over here is gaps for 15 speeds. And this is a real situation. If I run this, this is what the car will look like going around the track. And what I like about this is that I can, let me stop it. So these are the actual speeds and the times that each of these cars or this particular car is running at. Now, if I make a change to this, like if I made this speed 6, it would adjust this accordingly. And each time I make adjustment, let me say I'm down here and I notice that this speed here is too fast. I can go in there and change it from a 10-speed to a 5-speed. I can reload it and it will adjust the screen and adjust all of these other positions relative to what I just changed. But the biggest problem I'm having is if you look at this gate here, this yellow here is a gate. It's not getting registered back to my PC until the car is roughly here. Now, I've made adjustments in the system so that the car will run and not come off the track, or if it does, I can put it back on very easily. But what I have to do now is to modify the electronics to bring this positioning of the car back to about here, so that when I run over the start-finish line and I want to do this particular lane change, I can do it. That means I have to react within approximately half a length of a straight, in other words, a Carrera straight, in order for it to work. Right now, when I pass the finish line, it's down here, which is not good enough for me. Yeah. So I'm modifying the electronics so that it will react much quicker to the gate moves or when the gates get tripped, and be much easier to control and much more realistic. But it is working. And this particular program is it's a must. If anyone wants to run this, they really need to set up something like this to understand where the car is after so many Carrera timing cycles and what speed it's doing in order to be able to adjust it so it doesn't come off the track.
Yeah.
As simple as that. All right, I'll send you back to you. Good.
All right, so before we take any questions, I want to try to give the group my high-level understanding of your system. So you're adding electronics in the track to detect the car guide as it passes over or it passes through a particular area, and the infrared of the car, so it gets the ID information.
Yes, same as what Carrera does.
Okay, so basically the same thing as Carrera does. Then there's another piece of electronics that taps into the rails so that you can also get the commands that are being sent by the rails and filter what you need from those.
Yep, all those 10 signals that are sent down the track by Carrera, I can pick them up and send them to the computer.
Yeah. And then you've got a device that connects to the computer that the information is sent to, so the computer can gather and interpret the data. And then you have another device that the computer sends to, which plugs into your control unit, that acts as a surrogate for the controller to control the speed of the car.
Correct.
Okay, so no modifications are done to the cars. All the cars are stock Carrera cars. You don't need to add or change anything about the cars, correct?
Deliberate. I mean, in my youth, I used to race cars and rewind them. Today, I use the same cars, don't change a thing on them.
Yeah. So if you got a big collection, you don't have to re-chip all your cars with some other system in order to take advantage of what you're working on. You basically just add these things to your track. One computer interface, one controller interface per car, I assume, not multiple cars. You need one of those little control unit plugins for every car, right? So up to 6 of those.
No. It acts like your wireless. It acts like your wireless controller. Plugs in and controls all 6 cars.
Awesome, even better. So just one of those. Just one of the things that taps into the rails.
Yeah. Yes. In fact, what I'm going to be doing in the near future is the one that taps to the rails for picking up the signals, and one that goes into the CU for controlling it. That's going to be combined into one module.
There you go. And then one gate for pretty much every checkpoint you want to put in your layout. Do you have a limit on the number of those?
60.
16. Okay.
60.
60. Okay.
Well, he wanted to
need 60.
He wanted to be ready for the 24-hour race in Europe, you know.
Yeah, 60 should be able to handle pretty much any any track. Yeah, okay. And of course you're still working on this, and this is going to be
the ideal situation that I'm shooting for, and I think it's a long way off, is that when the car trips the IR readers, the gates, I would like the signal to be sent back to my unit via the rail. I don't want to have any radio frequencies taking on. I like the rail to be the conduit for the actual gate signals. Then I would have one unit only, which would be connected to the CU and to the rail. And that would pick up all the rail commands, all the gate commands, and then be able to manipulate them within that one microprocessor and send the data or the modification to the data back into the CU. Now, I've got 2 steps away from doing that right now. I'm modifying the processes, the microprocessors, so that I'm putting in faster ones, and the one I'm using has 2 cores rather than 1, so it's faster. Once I've done that and combined a couple of my electronics, the last phase is sending the signal back down the track. Now, I've spoken to Ed about it. I have an idea. I don't know whether it will work or not, because obviously when you send data down the rail, you cannot interfere with the CU signals. But that's the ultimate.
So, David, I've been thinking about that, and I think we can do it.
So it's kind of in the not too distant future, you finished all your electronic that you got. Your wish list is complete. Is this all going to be published as open source? Is it something that you're going to work with some kind of business or start your own business to market and sell, or what? Do you have any current plans?
Nah, I'd like to, personally, I'm going to try to contact Rebel, because I believe that Carrera already have most of the electronic side of it. They have those, what do they call those things where the cars go over and they register
check
lanes. Now, so that's got the electronics already.
Yeah.
There is a software limited, because right now it can only take 2 check lanes, right? But if that could be expanded to take, I don't know, let's even up to 16 check lanes or whatever it may be. I mean, 15 is enough for the average Tom, Dick, and Harry. Piece of new electronics, which would go into the CU and would do all of the work that I've just been describing. That could be sold by them on a competitive edge, because no other manufacturer has something like this. You could race cars through the computer, or you could race them against yourself. I've actually been able to use car 5 and car 6 manually, although I haven't done it that way. We'll race via the computer. So there's a combination. A lot of kids at home may have a small track and they can't race against anybody. Well, this is a way where you could have the computer module race 1 or 2 cars and they could race a car. And so from a Carrera perspective, I don't believe there's much to be built on the electronic side, and to then market that could be done very cheaply at the cost of another piece of track with the electronics built in, very inexpensive. And then all you'd need is the software. Yeah, I'd have to talk about how to put the software to make it easier for people to run and make it so that it runs on Apple as well as PCs. But that would be my ultimate goal, to have them run something like this. But I don't see that happening. I just want to finish what I've got first and then go from there. I've not put any plans together to market it or do anything additional, no.
Okay. Well, it's some super cool work that you're working on, and I look forward to you sharing more about it as you continue working on that. Does anybody have any questions for David? Not a lot of digital racers in the group, or Carrera digital. There's a few.
So David, though, just to carry through. So first of all, I think the deal of trying to use acknowledgement is, I think that has possibility. The more I thought about it, for you to send it back down in that time frame, in that slot. So we could talk about it some more offline.
Yep. Right now, I've just bought myself some new SD21 microchips. They're dual core and they're 133 megahertz, take more memory. The problem is that my instruction set that I used on the Arduinos don't run the same way on this. So I'm playing around figuring out how to get it to work. Once I've mastered that, I then can move on to that phase of the project, Ed. I want to first get the high-end microprocessor to work on the CU level. To be honest with you, it costs $5 to buy these processors, and they're incredibly powerful. I mean, it's unbelievably cheap.
Yeah, I was watching something the other day, and they were showing an old Cray 1 in some museum somewhere, and I think the deal, I forget what it was. It was a huge factor difference between your cell phone and a Cray 1. And when I first started into engineering and computing, a Cray 1 was like, that was the ultimate, And so here your phone is like 100x, what that thing does. So
what are most of the people on the call running? Are they mostly on like Scalextrics, Carrera, or some other brand, or their own homemade track?
Yes.
Well, yeah, mostly analog. If you could have a half decent ghost car go analog, that would be something.
Yeah, analog.
Well, look, I mean, I first tried doing this years and years ago with the old analog track, and I would put in little tiny readers built underneath in the slots. So as the car broke the lights, it's the same as an LED. But I didn't get very far with that. You need to do it on a digital track.
Yeah, it's definitely easier to interface with a digital control system.
The good news, though, David, is if you do have a digital track, what you've created, in theory, is what model railroaders have. You've created this mechanical fish tank. You can have it running in the background while you're doing things, and it would just be awesome.
Well, the cars don't behave exactly the same every lap. And you'll notice that in some of the videos, a couple of cars may spin out. So it's not perfect. A car can do 1,000 laps and not come off the track. They will still crash, and you'll still have to put them on again. But that's all being built into the software so that it knows to do what to do.
You make that sound like it's a bad thing.
Well, the goal was not to come off the track at all, but that's not possible with these cars.
Yeah, and not if you want them at race pace.
Well, that's how I do the DRS. I run the car, say, at 13, which is the Carrera has the throttle level as 0 to 15. I run it at 13, and when I hit the DRS gate, I automatically up the throttle 2 notches, so that as it's going down the straight, it's now got 15 as the max speed instead of 13, and at the end of the straight, it puts it back to 13. That's all DRS does.
Yeah.
So I used the Carrera instruction set to its fullest.
Nice. And
okay.
For those who aren't aware, this is something that Carrera has not ever had or offered, which specifically autonomous cars that change their speed so that you can actually race them and they're not just going around at a set speed. So you have to make them go as slow as they can get around the tightest turn of your track. Now with this kind of thing, they can speed up and slow down. There have been a couple other systems that have had this kind of thing. The only one that I can think of that is close with multiple checkpoints along the lap is Scorpius's system. I've never personally used it, but I know that exists. Scalextric has had an autonomous recorded lap playback feature through RCS-64, but it only has the one checkpoint at the lap counter, so it's even easier for it to get off of synchronized playback. Sorry.
David, have you ever managed to make one of these artificially intelligent cars drive quicker than you can?
Yes. The only reason is when I was younger, I could control the cars through 2 hands. I'd have a brake in one hand and my accelerator in the other hand, and it's very easy for me to control, and I used to be good at racing them. Today, I'm a little bit older, my hands are not quite as good. So consequently, I'm a little bit more skeptical when I race the car around the track without not coming off. But when I go and put that data into the system and I manipulate it, which I have been doing, yes, I make them go faster than I can.
Yeah, I've been able to do the same thing. In my approach was a hack compared to what David has done. But when I was done with my approach, and I only had one sync point on a track like you see behind me, as the human in the race, I had a difficult time. Not so much that I couldn't get ahead of the car, but I couldn't be as consistent as my program cars were. So over a number of laps, they would always win because as a human, I would screw up because I just wasn't nowhere near as consistent as me recorded. So, and it was a lot of fun because it was really hard, but they were doing lap times that were near the best that I could do on that track. But again, I recorded it, I edited it out, I tweaked it, and it was finally tuned, and they just screamed around that track. And it was, it actually became fun for a while because I'm a lone user. My nearest track to me is a couple hours away. And it actually started to be fun again.
Here's the other interesting challenge. I record the speed of a car on one lane. Now, I have the ability of doing lane change, and I can program that very easily. The problem is, once you've changed the lane, you've now got a car programmed for the other lane, and it's going to come off the track very quickly. So what I will need to do, and the system set up to do it, I need to be able to record the car on each lane, put that into the database, and when I do a lane change, the system knows that it's going from an inside or an outside lane and picks up the new data for that lane so the car doesn't come off the track. That's another challenge.
Well, and you have the dilemma as these things become human competitive, then you have the problem of each lane is unique. You know, you need the multiple seek points, you need anti-collision so that these things aren't just all crashing into each other. And then you need even some proximity detection, because if one car is going to creep up on the other, you know, you don't want it pushing it from behind, because that's an accident waiting to happen. So all of a sudden, the requirements of this thing and the intelligence and the rate at which it has to think is fast. Carrera at the rail level is 100 microseconds. So it's fast. That's where David gets his challenge, is he's doing things at a higher level coding and trying to meet and do things where decisions, you know, it's a 75 millisecond cycle, but the bits are flipping around at 100 microseconds, and you get even though it's 7.5 milliseconds for a particular word in this cycle, within that 7.5, there's just a small stream of like 13 bits that are flipping around at every 50 microseconds. So there's things have to perform. You know, it seems slow at a high level, but it's still working pretty fast at a low level.
With respect to the lane change and crashes, I know there's devices being sold that you can put into the track to help reduce that. I actually do that through timing. I have a variable which you can change, and when you go over one of my traps, it records when the next car goes over, and if on the same track, different lane, whatever, and it knows that if you're in a certain time frame of that car in front of you, it will not execute the lane change. So that's how I do that. And when the car does come off the track and you put it back on again, the car's going to go at a slow speed, let's say speed 6 or speed 4, until it gets to the next trap. Then it registers and says, I can now pick up and go fast again. So that's how I compensate for cars coming off the track.
Good stuff. And thank you for sharing. Like I said before, we look forward to more.
I've taken up too much of your time. So I thank you very much, people.
Perfectly fine amount of time. But we are going to move on to show and tell.
I'll stay in touch with Ed, and then when things change, he'll let you know. And I appreciate you letting me come on board.
Yeah, come on anytime. Yeah, you don't have to come on just for presentations. Come on anytime.
Thank you.
One question, David. The cars you had around the track, did they have magnets in them or no magnets? Sorry.
Some do, some don't.
Okay.
It's whatever Carrera built into the car. I haven't changed it. So a couple of my cars do. I have 2 old stock cars. They don't have the magnets, and they seem to. You know, the trick is tires. You need bloody good tires on these things, and if you don't, you're in trouble.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. It always comes down to the tires.
Thank you very much, everyone. Bye-bye.
Right. Thanks for sharing. All right, let's move on to some show and tell. If you've got something you have been working on or are going to work on, whatever you want to show and tell, raise your virtual hand or wave your real hand, and we'll make sure to get to you, and then we'll do other stuff. So John put his hand up. Go ahead, John.
Well, hello, everyone. I actually made my way, even though the weather here was, really not great. Made it to the hobby shop, and I found something. I don't know if you folks have seen this. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. But I saw it, and I just had to buy it. So let me just show this. I'll show you the box top.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you believe this?
Yeah.
Like, that's, oh my gosh, look at this thing. Like, how bizarre.
I believe Johnny's Workshop did a chassis, for a slot car chassis for that.
Oh, really?
Somebody did.
Yeah.
I know.
Okay, because I mean, honestly, at first I thought, well, if it comes with a figure, I'm not much farther ahead, which it does actually. But look at the parts. I mean, oh my gosh, this is like classic Airfix. I took it out of the bag so I could show you folks. And you know, the glass looks pretty cool. That's not bad. But then you look at, oh, hang on, let me switch this over here. There we go. Yay, a figure. Now, my favorite thing about this figure is, of course, the 70s neckerchief.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and then of course the sort of like Robin Hood
He's got a
style.
cravat.
He's got a cravat. Yeah, check it out. Look at that. Like, yeah.
That's awesome.
So he's kind of like got this Western Robin Hood motif going. Great little figure. And then here, I'll just rotate this again. I don't understand how Airfix could take a car this small and make the body in 3 pieces. Like only Airfix would do that. So you've got, you know, the interior piece. Yeah, whoops, let me just rotate this again. You've got kind of like the movable top, which, okay, I guess you could make that a separate piece. And of course, the fenders, all separate. So, you know, it's going to be fun to put together. And no, I'm not going to make a mold of this. I can't imagine this being very, very popular. I gotta love the inserts too, the wheel inserts. So they look really cool. But I just thought I'd share that because I knew it was around, but when I saw it, I thought, oh, I got to get this. And yeah, as far as hardware, I guess, would you use like 1/43rd scale hardware or HO? What would any recommendations?
I mean, the guy that did the conversion, I believe he posted on SlotForum International, so you probably just search there for Bond Bug and see his conversion. It might have been just a scratch conversion.
Does anyone know when they stopped production of the actual car?
Yeah, 1974.
Gosh, so you know, anyone younger than me probably wouldn't remember them at all.
I kind of remember them, which is really pathetic. But I don't think anybody bought one in Canada. If they did, I'd be very surprised because I think they were all right-hand drive. I don't think they had any left-hand drive.
I remember seeing them on the roads, but obviously they were on the roads a lot longer than after the end of the production, weren't they? But they were fiberglass body shell, weren't they?
Yeah, and believe it or not, they did make a 4-wheel version.
So a lot of them, you know, they should last. It's only the running gear that could corrode and disappear. But yeah, cool thing.
Well, they were built on a metal chassis though, so the chassis would probably perish before the bodywork would.
John, that screams proxy to me.
Oh yeah, no kidding. Hey, oh yeah. Oh, and then we'd have to build this big fly swatter so we could hit them as they're going around the track.
Can you imagine how they would tip over when you stick them into a corner?
Well, actually, they wouldn't because the front wheel is the guide. Actually, that thing should go like stink, shouldn't it?
It's a Delta wing.
Yeah, exactly. It's a Delta wing. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, but the Delta wing had 2 wheels at the front. It had some width. It had, you know, not a lot of width, but yeah, I suppose you're right. I just think it would. I don't know. It might tip. That's my feeling. But yeah, it's cool.
The Delta wing,
unlike a Canadian little tip,
wider. You make something narrow and tall, it's going to roll no matter what.
We got lots of lead.
There you go.
There's a really funny animated. It's a computer animation from some racing game or something, where they show, I don't know, dozens and dozens of those things in a race, and they all go into a turn, pile up into like a giant pile, like a Blues Brothers movie or something like that.
All right, thank you for sharing that, John. And
my pleasure.
Moving on to Wayne, what would you like to share today? You're muted.
I think a lot of you know what it is that I've got to show, but I'll put my phone in the chat so that I can get at my gallery. Need to check. There you go. Oh, I'm not sharing. One moment. Share screen, and start. That's right. So you've probably seen what I've been building. So you've 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 seen what I've been bu when it gets there. There you go. Latest thing I've been building. I don't know whether you know what this is, but if anyone doesn't know, it's Yona's Porsche 911. And I'm getting that ready for a digital race upcoming.
Looking pretty good.
Hey, I saw a couple of your videos on what you've been doing.
Courtney showed us his the
He
other
did
day.
it a couple of weeks ago.
Mhm.
So it's essentially the same. There are some differences, but it's essentially the same thing. And as you can see, this one's got a motor pod that's designed to fit around a digital C-type chip, which is what's in there. That's a C-type oxygen chip. And yeah, that's come together over the past week or so. And I leave to take it to a race meeting tomorrow.
Oh.
That's for later in the chat, probably. So unless there's any questions, any comments.
How's your body coming? How's the body coming along?
Oh, well, the answer is that is the body shell that is likely to get sat on that chassis. Although I'm not.
That's all it needs, right?
I was gonna say it's got paint on it.
Yeah, it needs. It's a little further than that now. The truth is that there's Gio's also got a body shell, and his is completed. The light kit and everything. This was, I mean, look at that light kit. That's quite a large.
18 grams is really light. I mean,
it's really light.
Wow.
Yeah, we have a regulation. The whole thing's got to weigh 22 when it's finished. There's about 1 gram of Lexan to be added to what you can see. By Lexan, I mean headlamps and windows. So it will come in under 20, and it's going to need some ballast somewhere in the body shell to get it to 22 for the regulations. So yes, I'm not actually prepping a body, but Gio's got one, and Yona's got. This is Yona's one.
Good.
Yeah, looks good.
And as usual, I can't see how to change the stop the share. Let me see. Stop share. Got it.
There you go. All right, good stuff. Looking forward to seeing that how well you do.
Well, I'm afraid that, yeah, I haven't told you, but I will, because I set off to go to Holland in about 10 hours time, so I need to go to bed. The race is the Eindhoven Suzuka race. I've been before. Out of the team is 201 slot cars, which is Jona's brand for that car. Interestingly and quite peculiarly, it's just happened that all of us are from Worldwide Slot Car Chat. So 3 of us that have never met are going to meet, and we're going to be teammates and race together, which is going to be absolutely great. There's also a World Endurance Championship event, which is a 6-hour enduro. After the car you've looked at is a GT3. That races for 90 minutes twice on Saturday. The Sunday race is a 6-hour race, and Gio's been in the chat showing us Porsche 963 that he did with he took us step by step through all the body preparation, if you remember. So, and that's the car that we're going to compete with on Sunday. So we're in for a big weekend.
Who's the rest of your team? So you, Gio, Yuna. Is there somebody else, or is that it?
No, that's it. 6 hours. That's easily done with 3 people. Yeah, 6-hour endurance is right for 3 people. For two 90-minute races is also good for 3 people, because you can do 30 minutes a piece and get your 90 minutes that way. So yeah, exactly how we're going to structure it, whether we're going, how long the driving stint's going to be, and we haven't made any decision. We'll make that all up as we go along. But yeah, that's what we're going to do.
Did you get your hotel reservations in line this time? I don't want you sleeping in a camper again.
Yeah, but you know what? I've had an email this afternoon that changed my return ferry. I've booked a ferry to get across and a ferry to get back. And they, instead of the 10:30 p.m. ferry on Sunday night, they've now moved me to 7:30 p.m., which is an hour and a half after the checkered flag. Well, considering that the ferry port is about 3.5 hours drive from the track, that's just not going to happen. So I have a problem. I have to resolve that. And if that means I have to take the next ferry the next day, the first ferry the next day, then it looks like I'll get a free hotel room that way.
Well,
So, yeah.
Very cool. Looking forward to hearing how that goes.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Big Den, what you got?
Good Wednesday or Thursday. Day, yeah, righto. Righto, mate. I see how earlier we had an Australian expat. Was that David, wasn't he? You said the accent, and then all of a sudden he tells us he's in South Carolina. I think, hang on, am I getting this wrong? Yeah. When I did a race report last week, I told you how in Group 5 racing locally, I was having trouble catching the Lancia Stratoses with my Lancia Monte Carlo. So what did I do? I went and bought another Monte Carlo. So I just love this. I just love the colour scheme so much. So hopefully coming up.
There we go.
Okie doke. Yeah, so apart from the fact, that's got a little bit of yellow on it. Those, some sort of yellow berries there in the fruit of the Loom logos. Just like the look of it so much, and it was, just came up as I think this is one of the earlier Sideways Racer releases, but a guy on eBay locally, or Australia locally, had it brand new in box for sale. I did look for another livery on one of the local retailers, but I'm not having much luck with that particular retailer. Every time I click on something that's in stock, I get a phone call back from them to say it's not in stock. So I think I'll be avoiding that frustration from now on. So just moving on, a couple of other pictures of it from various angles. Yeah, it's pretty detailed at the back end. Overhead, and just a bit of a look of it from underneath. Interestingly, this out of the factory, it's got, when you get these sideways cars, they've got 3 sets of rear axle offsets. This one's got the 1 millimeter offset, and all I can say about the pinion and the gear is they're flying in close formation. They're definitely not meshing. And because there's no rear or backwards or forwards adjustment on the pod, I'm just I want to go with one of the other offsets anyway, because the car is literally dragging its tail end on the track with a 1 millimeter offset, unless they go bigger tires. But then I'd have to fiddle around with the gear and everything to get it to mesh.
The reason you've got that issue is because is that a flat 6 motor?
Yeah.
Yeah, you've actually got a much bigger offset than 1 millimeter, because the flat 6 is a shorter height.
It sits down. Yeah, it sits down further. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I'll probably just put it to the 0 offset anyway. The next picture should be something for Dewan to see, something that came up locally in Australia, and these were on our eBay, offered for sale for. I'm not sure that there's 3 Revell Corvettes there. The price they had on these to start off with was $145 Australian for the 3 cars, plus about $20 freight. So I'll just run you through the pictures again, just from different angles again. The one on the right.
Friday.
The one on the right is not exactly what you'd call mint condition. It looks like the rear fenders have been cut out to take those bigger tires.
Yeah.
And if you go to underneath, you'll notice that particular one has got a 26D motor in it, Dennis. And a scratch chassis of some sort.
Scratch chassis or some other chassis. I don't know if it's scratch.
Looks very, very similar to a Chris Walker chassis. I don't think.
Yeah. Especially soldering,
Yeah, or even soldering, yeah, the giveaway with the 26D motor is the blue wire there. But anyway, I looked at this. I put it in my watch list, and you know, of course, this is your starting point. The chassis look in fairly good condition. They don't look like they're bent or anything like that. For what I can
those
see
things bend if you look at them, Skew, so be careful.
Yeah.
They're very, very soft.
And of course, then you're going to have to get.
Certainly, the two with the two on the left don't have their original guides in them either. That's not an original.
No, they don't. They didn't look at, although they're both the same.
Yeah, but it's not the original guide. The one on the right-hand side is closer to the original.
Yeah, I can see those pinions with those steel gears chomping into them. Yeah, it would quite often wear right through the teeth. So
you get a circuit.
There's a little bit of wear there, because then they're going to get tyres from them anyway. The real sealer for the no deal was the following: after going round at $145 and not getting a bid, they were relisted at $188.50. So, yeah, I just
if at first you can't sell them, increase the price.
Yeah, and then so I think I will definitely be saying no sale to that one.
Thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah, I don't need them, and there's just be another 3 unfinished objects I'd have to fiddle around with. Yeah. Okay, so that's me for today. I won't have a club corner. I was a little bit rather tired last week. I didn't go down to racing, and I haven't seen any results. So I'm not sure whether the guys had enough to race or not. And then tomorrow is our Australia Day long weekend, so there'll be no racing this week.
What is the exchange rate for the Australian dollar? So I can get a better comparison.
Oh, it's a bit better as well. We were about 60. We're about 65 to 70 cents, somewhere in that range. So, yeah, you're looking at your dollars, probably about 2/3. So they'd be looking at wanting now about $120 US, I'd say, Dewan.
And it looked like one of those white cars was right-hand drive.
Oh, hang on, just a minute. I'll see if I can go back and share, John. Okay, let's go back to find the screen here, get the share button.
There's somebody spent a lot of money to do that conversion, but
okay. Oh no, I shared the wrong one, I think, didn't I? Am I right? Okay. I just
two of them are right hand.
Two of them,
yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, maybe they just took the driver off and sliced him up.
They may not be the original drivers.
Yeah.
Might be for a right-hand corner track.
I must admit, when the price went up to $188.50, I wasn't looking at the orientation of the driver. So the orientation of my bank account was more important to me.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll take my hand down and Dennis to Dennis.
All right.
Can you change the pod in your slotted with the rules that you race under?
Oh, is that for me, Jim?
Yeah, I would put a slotted pod in if the rules allow it.
Yeah, well, most of the guys wouldn't know anyway. They'd see the yellow motor there, and in one of my sideways cars, I do have the red hard pod in the Escort, the Mark II Escort, I think. But I do have some slotted angle winder pods that I probably could put in there, Jim. I'm not sure whether I've got a bit. I don't have a lot. Well, they're all long can ones, the slotted pods, aren't they? The angle winders, I think.
Yeah, they are. They all take that same motor.
Yeah. Oh my God!
Why would you do that, Jim?
I think it's a better pod.
And
I might use one car to race and one for development. Now I've got two the same. So yeah, I'll send it over to you, Jim.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to take a quick one from Wayne because he got an update on the body from Una. So go ahead and share that, Wayne.
Okie dokie. I suspect that Una, it's 2 a.m. in Europe right now, but I suspect that Una might actually be burning the midnight oil on that body shell and may actually have us on in the background to watch. So he's just sent me a message on WhatsApp He needs to get out of bed in about 4 hours, he says. So this is where he's at with it right now. And apart from a lighting kit, it is completed.
Looks good.
And good.
The decals were a very, very last minute thing. We expected we wouldn't get them until we arrived. I don't know why I've got the same photograph.
Really nice.
Many times. Yeah, it's a quick job. Unfortunately, I do know that some of the story of this decal or this sill, he's unfortunately he's broke that a couple of times trying to get it into the right place. But it's a race body, so you know, it won't come home looking like this. It's doubtful anyway. So yeah, the lenses are not there, are they? In the headlamps just yet.
Talented young man, that one.
He's very talented. I mean, I've had a lot of chat back and forth with him over the past few weeks in the process of development, and yeah, he what he knows very, very well. He knows his design very well. I can ask him a question like, should the motor pod be flush with the bottom of the car, or should it be marginally offset? And because mine is slightly higher than the bottom of the car, and he says that's just things like that's just an anomaly of the print. If you want to abrade that, you can sort that and make it flush because it's designed to be, and things like that we back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow, there you go. Thank you for allowing me to interrupt and jump the queue.
Yep. Thanks for the update. Go ahead, Dennis.
All right. Change cameras quickly. In the week, something happened here, and I went out to the mail and found this in the mail. This came from Jeremy, and not that, but this came from Jeremy, and he and Garth have been busy with all of these kind of things, and I think he showed one of them, but he made this one for me, which I'm really impressed with. So thank you to Garth and to Jeremy. It's one of these things where I can actually, the base can be screwed down, and let me see if I can lift it off with one hand. Yeah. So there's this neat little system at the bottom to allow it to swivel. I haven't decided yet whether I'm going to motorize that, but yeah, I like it a lot. So I just wanted to say thank you very much to those guys.
Looks good.
It does.
Very cool.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, that's all for me today. Really, don't have much else going on, and getting ready for a big retro race this weekend at Piranha Raceway. So I'll be running 124 scale retro cars this weekend, and trying to see whether they will let me run a brushless car in one of the supporting races on Thursday night, which I haven't been allowed to do up till now. I was disqualified from the one where I did do it because I didn't tell them that I was going to do it. But it was fun enough because I actually submitted my regular car for tech, and then two of the other racers came over to me, sort of like the devil that gets on your shoulder, and whispered in my ear, "Come on, race the brushless car, race the brushless car, race the brushless car." I said, "Man, they don't let me race that." He goes, "Come on, race the brushless car." So I raced it, and I ran nearly 2 laps more than I have ever run on that track before. And I put down the fastest laps that I've ever run on about 6 of the 8 lanes. And I came in second, and I was promptly disqualified.
Yeah.
So the next week I tried to enter the car again and just put it down on the tech table in front of the tech inspector, who promptly turned it upside down, looked at it, and shoved it back across the table at me. And said, "You can't do that." So hopefully at some point we'll be allowed to do that. I've been fitting those motors into a bunch of different things now, different levels of performance of the motors, different control boards, things like that. And, I've got everything from 132nd scale cars that work pretty nice now up to 124 scale Eurosport that are about a second, maybe a second and a tenth or two faster than anything that I've driven on that flat track at Piranha Raceway. Down in the 4.5 second laps on a track that we normally do 5.2 seconds on. And it is absolutely, I don't know what to say, shattering, nerve shattering, how fast those things can go if you really get them going.
Yeah,
but lots of fun. Other than that, nothing much to report from this end of the world except that it's raining. So I'll be around.
Have you any feeling on the consistency? Have you built the same thing twice yet?
No, not yet.
I'm sure it'll.
Yeah, there's a bunch of things I've got to do there. I have no idea of the consistency because I really only have one of each spec of motor. I have a little bit of idea about the relative performance of the different control boards, and the amount of brakes that they have and what happens when you get off the brakes and try to, or when you're off the power or when the power goes off on the track and whether you have brakes or not. Some of the boards tend to stutter when you start the high powered motors on full throttle. Some of them don't do it. Some of them the motors tend to stutter when you're at very, very high speed. But again, I haven't had too much of those troubles. I've just been reading a lot about it.
All right, good stuff.
Okay.
Sure, it's just a matter of time that things get moved over to brushless.
To think that a year ago we did say this is not going to affect us, but it already is doing. Just won't get to the toy market, but I think it's got a place in racing.
Yeah, it may well have, and I think it's going to very much depend on how powers that be in various controlling bodies decide to write their rules.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a lot of guys who have experience of brushless motors from radio control, and they're already talking about, hey, I need to be able to change these parameters on the drive board. I need to be able to program.
Yeah, mapping it. Yeah.
And map the thing. And I want to do this, and I want to do. And the rest of us that have already spent a lot of money on a controller that has all sorts of functions are saying, hey, no, don't put it in the board, please, because otherwise then we've got another technology that we have to master, and some of us are struggling a little to master those technologies nowadays.
Yep. All right, moving along. Lenny Broke. What you got, Mr. Broke?
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good day from Adelaide in South Australia. Just got a few cars to go through, a bit of show and tell. Just going back to Big Den's Lancia with the pod. I've got a Porsche K3. It's a similar vintage as that, well raced. We weren't allowed to change the pod, so we had to run with the standard pod, but we were allowed to brace it. So I thought I'd just show you this, if you can see it. It's the old brace similar to what we used to do with flexi cars. Oh God! So you can see a bit of piano wire going between the two pillar blocks and the motor. And I secured that on with a bit of JB weld. So maybe you can do that with it if you're not allowed to change your pod then.
Yeah, one of my other sideways cars, I'm not sure, probably one that I sold, did have that bracing. One of the other guys did it for me some years ago. What I was actually thinking of doing with this one is actually putting a de facto scale auto tube across between the uprights to see if there's any sort of flexing. If there is any sort of flexing.
We found that the flex was usually through here, through this side of the pod.
Yeah.
So we used to do that to all our Ninkos as well. We'd get rid of the dreaded Ninko hop. And I got the idea off when we used to race flexi cars. We used to solder a brace in like that on the flexi cars to stop everything from bending in a hit. So I thought I might as well give it a try, and it worked. This car's probably, I don't know how old now, nearly 10 years old. But it's still competitive in our group.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for that, Lenny.
Yeah, that's the Gauloise 935 K3. But last week was my birthday, so my alter ego ordered some slot cars for me, Mr. O'Day, and he's one of them. It's I think it's the 92 Bathurst winner, slotted Skyline R32. I'm going to see if I can run that in our Group A class. So it's just the standard inline saloon class that slotted do. It's the 92 Bathurst winner. I think the following year, the livery for that one, that was the famous race where the race was red flagged and the results were turned back one lap. The Nissan Skyline finished up into the wall, and allegedly Dick Johnson in his Ford Sierra was supposed to have won it, but because the results were turned back one lap, the Nissan was still leading. So they got up there for the presentation and everybody's booing Jim Richards, and he politely told them all that they're a pack of a-holes. And so quite famous footage of that if you want to look for it on YouTube. The other thing I was looking at, I got for my birthday was the Rothmans Holden VL Commodore, entered by Alan Moffat and John Harvey and Tony Mulvihill for the Spa 24 Hour. This car actually won the first round of the FIA World Championship of that year at Monza because all the BMWs were disqualified for having illegal body panels on them. So they actually won the race. So that was quite famous. And the other car I got was a Momo 962 Porsche that I quite liked. Like the Momo colour scheme, and I like racing the Porsches. A bit different from all the R32s that you see everywhere. Sorry, not R32s, the Nissan Group Cs in the class. And just for a bit of nostalgia for me, this is a car I used to race back in the 70s, but it's been updated a bit since then, or changed around. It's got a repop of the old Palmer Monza GT body on it. It's actually based on a Womp. So it's got plumber rails in it and floppy pans and flex limits and all sorts of stuff. But we raced them back in the late 70s. This one actually ran and won a 24-hour race we ran for them. So, yeah, I got a friend of mine, we found a body from somewhere, and I got a friend of mine who does vac forming to repop it. So, yeah, so that's just something I drag out for a bit of fun now and again. So, yeah, that's it for me at the moment, I think. So we didn't have any racing this week because after Blake's, it was 41 degrees in the afternoon. I feel the Blake said, no, I'm not coming. Yeah. So we had 4 turn up. So we decided just to run a practice session. So, yeah, that's it for me. Thanks.
Good stuff. Thanks for sharing. And Mario's got his hand up. Go ahead, Mario. You're still muted.
That's my trick.
All right, guys. So I don't know, maybe the last time I had shared, I said that I was going to be working on my Fly Ferrari Daytona, the 365. So I want to see if I can share on my phone. Hopefully I can do this right. I'm going to try it. Hopefully the pictures come up a little bit better on sharing. So give me a second. Let's see. Share photos. Let's see. Give me a second. I took a bunch of pictures. So let's see. Options, add. So can everyone see that?
Yep. Dotson.
So this is the 365 Ferrari Daytona Le Mans that was from 1972. So I started working on this, like I said, a couple weeks ago. I took it apart. I drove it on the track, and it ran horrible. It was just a god, like just horribly. I was like, oh my god, what's wrong with this car? So I decided, let's just take this whole thing apart and start over. So tore it down. I purchased the an Oliver chassis, which I got from Electric Dreams. Threw that on the bottom. I wanted to go with some staff wheels to match the classic gold 5-star, but didn't really turn out. I didn't like the way it looked. So I ended up changing that up after some testing and running it on the track. So I ended up going to, what is it, the 15.8 by 10 slotted wheels on the back with the slotted F22 wheels on there, and it actually worked very well. I like the way they fit on there, and it started to run way better. So I ended up going with the inserts, the BB style inserts, the gold ones, front and back, to give it a kind of a, really nice race look to it. I felt it looked really good, and I really loved the way how low the car actually got. And it runs very nice on my track. The handling was superb. The tires are starting to come in. So it's a really nice build at this point for me. I ended up going with a 25K motor from NSR inside this with I think I put a 14 pinion with I think it's a 20. Let me see. I think it's a 20. It's not a 30. I can't remember which gear I put on the back end of that. It's a purple gear, so it might be a 33, but it's a sidewinder, so it's a purple. Maybe it's a 36. So 1436, I believe, with the 25K. And it runs really nice again, like I said. So I wanted to share that if anyone has one and they wanted to do it. It's fantastic.
What kind of chassis is under it now? Because you were showing a fly chassis, which is inline front motor.
Correct. So that was the stock chassis, and I purchased the Oliver 3D chassis.
Okay.
And
interior mods
that's the finished car, the back end, and I like it. The tires on the back stick out a little bit more than I'd wanted to, but it's okay. But other than that, that's it. That's the car.
Did you have to modify the interior to fit the Sidewinder?
Yes, unfortunately, I did. I had to hack up half the interior inside, but you can't really see. The guy's still intact. You just can't tell. So I had to remove the passenger seat. But other than that, I got it to fit. I didn't take any pictures of underneath, but let me see if I can turn the screen off from sharing. Let's see, how do I do that?
I can do that if you want.
Oh, no, I think I got it.
Yep, we got it.
Okay. So, may not be able to see.
Yeah, you're going to need to turn off your virtual background.
Okay, let's see. Give me a second. None. All right.
Okay.
Is that better?
Yep. You could probably go with a hubless rear wheel if you wanted to get those inboard a little bit more.
That was probably going to be my next thing to look at, but for now, it's not bad. There's plenty of room. The front's turned out pretty good. The car is really nice, so again, I like it. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. If anyone wanted to take the Ferrari Daytona and hack it up and make something like this, definitely can do it.
Amazing what
right, that's it for me.
Amazing what a new chassis and pod and everything will do to a car. Fine, makes beautiful bodies.
Yeah. Yep.
Nice job,
so
Mario.
that's it for me.
All right, thanks
man.
for sharing. And move on. Moving on to Jim. Go ahead, Jim.
Well, I decided to try something new. And we've been experimenting a lot with tire inserts in the air wheels up here. But as far as I know, I've never been able to find a insert for an F1 wheel. It's much smaller diameter, so I decided to make my own. And I used to make HO tires from scratch. And so the process is actually quite similar to make your own inserts. I take a wheel and cut off the air ribs and then sharpen the edge and then just poke it through like almost like a drill in a pin vise. And you push it through the rubber, and this is what you get. You little donut. And that's throwaway. So then I take the that sheet of rubber and cut it in a square like that, and then mount that on that same wheel without the ribs on it, and turn it down to a much smaller size, split it in half, mount it on the tire and then on the wheel, and then cut it down to the actual size that I want the inserts. So this example is actually inserts for the larger size, but I'm doing the same thing with the F1 wheels because, like I said, as far as I know, they're not available or I've never seen them. So I just decided to make my own from some scraps that I had from old HO rubber that we used to use to build HO tires with. So it's just a rainy day project, which we've had a lot of rainy days around here. So something I worked on last week or so.
That we have. We have.
That's it.
Nice.
Yeah. Wow.
What kind of foam was that? Yep.
It's a foam that I got from a guy that used to make HO tires, and I don't know where he got it. And unfortunately, he's passed away. So I'm sure you can source it somewhere, but I don't know where to source it.
Yeah. But what I normally do is just when I soak off the foam rubber off the rims that I've been racing 124 scale cars, I soak the wheel and tire in either in some acetone or some lacquer thinners, and then the hub just slides straight out. And then I let those dry and I slice those into little pieces, and then the inside's already done.
We used to actually make, I may do this because you can find different densities of rubber. We used to go to Walmart, I was going to say Kmart, Walmart, Target, whatever, and get flip-flops.
Yeah.
And cut the donuts out of those because it's the same type of rubber and consistency. So, you know, for a lack of better source, you can go to your local department store and go to the shoes section and get them.
Mm-hmm.
Looks weird when you have a bunch of flip-flops laying around with big holes in them. But
way back in the 60s, when they first started running with foam tires, that's exactly where they found the best rubber, was on the flip-flops.
Absolutely.
So there's a variety
at the time,
of places
it happened to be blue rubber. So that when you look back on some of those early race reports, the ones that had blue rubber, that was what they were. They were flip-flops cut.
All right. Good tip, Jim. And moving on to Dewan, what would you like to show off today?
Well, I think I had posted something erroneously in our link chat window, but it was concerning getting some LMP cars, slotted LMP cars ready for a potential upcoming race. And I had a Lola. I actually bought this from Dennis. But anyway, I was not aware that the Lolas had a different guide, and I had broken the lead wire on the guide, and I didn't know that LMPs, rather. Other LMPs had a different type of guide. So I'll just go ahead and just click on share. Probably see a little bit better. But that was my concern, was that I didn't I had never seen a guide where the lead wire went into the back of yeah, a guide like that. And I couldn't figure out how to reconnect it. I was questioning whether I was going to take the whole thing apart or not. And anyway, I was just kind of curious about that. But I did find that the slotted explanation or the side instructions on how to install and replace it online. But it's still very. I just wasn't aware of it. I guess it's one of my neophyte issues.
And on top of that, there I think have been 3 different designs of that thing now.
Oh, wow.
Well, the very early ones where you had to basically stick the wire through and catch it in a hole in the braid and then pull the braid forward a little to trap the wire and all kinds of silly things like that. And then the later ones have set screws in them. And I think now the new LMPs are back to, they've changed the front end, like on the Oricus, they've changed the front end so that it uses a regular guide.
In the Audi, there's an updated chassis that has a regular guide in it.
Yeah. Yeah, the Orica, the latest Orica has a regular guide.
And I did run across Henry, who's normally in our chat. He had created a 3D printed alternative. You just could pretty much rim out all that the guide to make it, and you put in his little 3D printed device and allow you to put in any standard guide from that point on. So I thought again, it was a big puzzle to me, so I just figured I'd share that there might be some other people out there that was aware, or not aware, just like I was, of the differences, and trying to get that fixed.
What's your plan? Did you get the wire back in, or are you going to replace it, or?
I haven't started my. I'm going to go down to like Friday. Okay. I'm going to get another, because this guide, it actually doesn't have the top and screw and things. And the new one.
That's the clip-in one.
So
there are better ones that have a screw that holds them in.
Yeah,
and there's a wood version as well. It's a little thicker and deep.
Yeah. My other car, which is so I have the Lola, and I also have a Audi R18 that has a completely different guide. Well, similar design, but it has the post, the screw-in post washer and things like that on it. So I was going to be switching out to that. I just don't.
Yes, the one I've had trouble with those myself. I did use one of Henry's adapters, which Phil kindly printed out for me. He printed out a few for me actually, and after installing it, and I found it was easy to cut that front bridge off. So that the wires aren't getting caught against that bridge. I always thought that design should have had the bridge go sideways rather than fore and aft. But and the other thing too is, if you're going to use that original setup, what I'd suggest you do, if you desolder the motors from the wire from the motor and set up the braid independent of like where you're not trying to fiddle under all that complex structure there. So attach the wires and the braids and everything, and then route the wires back and solder them to the motor.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. As Henry said in his original comments about this, I think he had one a braid or a wire come loose in a race. He says, try repairing this in a hurry, and you'll, the other guys will, just leave you in their dust.
Yeah, he said it was a 15-minute repair estimate on switching out the standard slotted version versus his 3D printed alternative.
Yeah. Okay.
Alrighty, all done, Dewan?
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to Mr. Kiprich. Go ahead, Brian.
All right, guys, got a Formula WSC update for you. We have a running chassis. So there it is, 18K Predator, a fully adjustable front end, 3-screw pod, plenty of movement there, and I'm only at about a turn and a half out on that, so plenty of movement. And very pleased with how it runs. At
cool.
10.5 volts on my track, consistent. Mid 2 to low 3, 7.2 to 7.3 second laps, over 100 laps. Obviously, an 18,000 RPM motor at 10.5 volts isn't going to overwhelm you in the straights, but it sure corners really nice. It's fairly low. It's not slammed because it's a 0 offset pod on this, but you can't get a popsicle stick under the back end. It's fairly low. It's got a nice rake to it. The guide is offset, so the braids present really well. So you can run that almost dead flat, and the leading edge of the braid will still be above your rails. Fully adjustable front end. I'm using 2mm axle spacers as bearings, so it freewheels quite nicely. So far, so good. And then the last part is ta-da. So a quick prototype. I had some printing issues with this. I'm not used to filament printing bodies, so I'm not sure what's going on here. I've tried a couple different things, but there's a quick look at kind of where we're at. And those times, by the way, were with the body on it. The chassis itself weighs a whopping 41 grams. With the body, it weighs a whopping 55 grams.
Nice.
So it's very light, handles very well. It's not bad in the straights. And this Predator motor has a very good brake range. Full brake, it stops pretty quick. I turn it all the way down and it'll coast for 3, maybe 4 full track sections before it stops. So it should accommodate any type of driving style you like.
That's really cool.
We're getting there, and I just wanted to show it with for size perspective.
That's grand. That's very
how
grand.
big it is.
Yep.
Because it's wide for a Formula style car. It's kind of wide. To me, it looks like 50s GP ran into an 80s Formula One, which is fine. We're not trying to duplicate a car that exists. We're kind of trying to do our own thing. At least that's the premise I was going under. So it's a little wide for that, but again, then here's perspective with a NSR Corvette. So you can see it's not gigantic, but so far so good, guys. I think we're getting there. I have another version that's a square pod instead of this curved pod, and it works out nice because the same chassis fits right underneath it. I'm still working on that, but so far that's where I can see. I didn't print this with any mirrors or anything on it, but front end look. So
looks good.
Comments, concerns, smart ass remarks? Anybody? Oh, Wayne left. Never mind.
I've just got one quick comment. The side pods. Can you make the top level of the side pods and make that side pod a little thinner?
What do you mean?
I think aesthetically it would look a little bit better if the side pods were not as tall.
Okay.
But that's just a personal thing.
No, that's a fine. You can see kind of where I got that height from. It's kind of what I based that on. So yeah, that's certainly doable to make the pods lower. Like I said, I just kind of based that off of what I was seeing height wise. But yeah, that would certainly be, we could make that an option, a lower set of pods.
Yeah, I'm just basing it on a Formula Ford would not have those big tall pods like a Formula One car. They'd be a little bit shorter.
Yeah, but this is a Formula WSC, so it might.
That's true. Yeah.
And you could slope the top of the pod as it comes away from the fuselage, so to speak, out to the outer edge. Put a slope in it.
Gotcha. So it tapers a little bit.
So it's shorter in the front. Yeah, that might work too.
Well, I think what Mr. Weber was talking about was taper it laterally.
Right. So it's you have a shorter wall on the outside of the pod than you do
the body. Yeah, and that would give the appearance of a thinner pod.
Yeah. Brian, leave it to your decisions and what you like. Like
when
Apple was putting their stuff out, Steve Jobs always had the last say, and they did it his way, and that's why that's why people love it. So you're the artist. You stick with what your plan is.
Absolutely. I'm keeping them so they let me keep coming on the chat.
They won't kick you off.
When the price of these comes out, determines whether you get to stay on the chat or not.
Yeah.
Well, again, I work with basic shapes. You know how, guys, I work in Tinkercad. So I mean, some of these are good ideas because otherwise these are very basic shapes, and I don't want it to look like necessarily just some kid's toy. So
it looks awesome, Brian.
The only problem with tapering the pod, the way John talked about, is where it meets the back end of the car might be a little tricky. But well, I mean, we can certainly play with it. I mean, it's not like we got to have this thing done tomorrow. So.
Yep. Yeah, keep playing. Looks great.
Looks really good, I think.
Only question I have for you guys is, what else should we do on the back? I mean, with that kink there is for me being careless with pliers. Would a car like this have a brake light? I'm assuming it would. Do most race cars have, formula style cars have a brake light?
Well, it doesn't have a brake. It doesn't have a brake light. It would have a rain light.
A running light, yeah.
It would have a rain light that you put on in the case of a wet race. Yeah.
Yeah. So, brakes are for Canadians.
How about WWSCC or whatever the
WSC? I don't know. And I haven't put Wayne's cup holder in there yet.
Maybe a diffuser back there.
Now, one of the things I will add is I'm going to add to the bottom around the cockpit opening. I'm going to extend something down there to make it easier to put a cockpit in it. So you could use a flat card type system or something rather than trying to get, glue something to these tapered sides. So I'll try to accommodate it where it'll be very easy for everybody to put a driver in there. So, but that's where we're at for now.
Great stuff.
That's awesome.
Good. All right, look forward to seeing progress on that.
And just for those who might be interested, if I widen the very back end of that car by 2 millimeters, it'll take a standard motor. So I will end up with one with probably at least a 21.5 Piranha in it, if not a 25K Predator. So not for the proxy, of course, for my own personal amusement.
All right, thank you, sir. And Mr. Weber, what would you like to share?
Something I added to the sort of scratch build queue this week that got added. Found on eBay. You can see the image in the background is what we're going for. So I want to build a model of a 1/32 scale slot car, of course, model of Dan Gurney's car that he raced it in the British Touring Car Championship in 1961, which was a Chevrolet Impala 409 with a 4-speed, 409 cubic inch V8 engine. And the car's been found and restored, and the picture is of Dario Franchitti, I think, and his significant other riding around in a parade lap or something like that at Goodwood this year, a couple of years ago, something like that. Anyway, I'm looking forward to this. Should be fairly straightforward. There isn't a roll cage in the car. There wasn't one then, not a roll bar or roll cage. Who knows if he had seat belts? Anyway, I think it had bench seats. The original car did. But it's going to be really simple, but I'm hoping it's going to look pretty cool. Anyway,
it looks great.
Yeah,
I think it was a straight. Yeah, they didn't even have bucket seats back then, did they?
No, it's a bench seat across the front.
Yeah. Bench seats. I guess the NASCAR guys might have been using some sort of bucket, maybe something bucket seats that they built themselves. But Dan Gurney, I don't think he wasn't really tuned into what NASCAR was up to, or even maybe even USAC stock cars. I'm not sure, but I think it's really, really interesting. And he came within, I think, 1 or 2 laps of winning a race at Silverstone, beating all the Jaguars by a long, pretty good distance until a wheel broke, one of these steel wheels that was on it. Apparently stock Chevrolet wheels, one of them broke and he had to stop. So anyway, we'll see. Hope it comes out cool. Anyway.
All right. Look forward to seeing that. And Garth, what would you like to share today, Garth?
I have an addendum to the little table that Dennis showed. Okay. This is I've been goofing around with different sizes of this. We call this thing a tech table now. Okay. In the middle table here is the original version, which is 4 inches high. And this one on the right is 6 inches high. And this newest version here is just a kind of a mock-up of a 2.5 inch high version. Okay. Same on the tops. Okay. Just different heights. Okay. And there's a shot of the shorty version. Middle, that's the original version, or the same version that Dennis showed, 4 inch high version. That's the tall one, 6 inches high. Okay, there are three together there. See different heights again, and then that is that's the shortest version of 2.5 on a kind of a homemade rotator that I got. Dennis has got the really nice one, but this one is just a kind of a homemade one that I made for these. That's the middle one on the rotator. And the idea behind the rotator is it rotates around, but it's sort of friction. It has a lot of friction. And the idea is that when you stop it, it sits where you stop it, so it doesn't spin fast. So you can work on the car, basically. That was the idea behind it. Okay. And there's a rotator on the tall one. And then this is just my mock-up of the rotator. Dennis has got the real version of it, but basically it's just a piece of wood and a donut on it. Okay, and it just rotates back and forth over that. Okay, and and again, Dennis has shown it there, and it allows you to take the thing off. Okay, so if you didn't want to have the rotator, okay, you could the one that is on the website doesn't have a rotator with it, so it's kind of like 2 products. Okay, the tech table and then the rotate table. Okay, that's another version of it there. So anyways, that's just the kind of what's in the wind. Okay.
Very nice.
All righty. Looks like we got some minutes left for some Club Corner. If anybody have any Club Corner they want to talk about, put your hand up and we'll make sure to get to you. If not, we'll just open the floor to whatever anybody wants to talk about, so long as it's slot car related. Not seeing anybody jumping up and down.
I got a question for Jim Rose.
Go for it.
Is he still here?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you started building your Scale Auto cars for the Scale Auto Challenge?
I probably am not coming, so the answer would be no.
Okay. All right. Thanks. That's just I came across something while I've been sitting here working, because I got a hard chassis for the NSX GT3, and came to realize that the whole front end of that hard chassis is set up for a 2mm axle.
Really?
I actually have that car, and I didn't notice that with the hard chassis.
Yeah, that's all part of it. So have a look-see and see if you can tell me.
Dennis, you know what? When I put that car together, the axle was so tight, I just reamed it out. I didn't realize it was made for 2mm.
Well, I was trying to ream it out, and I looked at this and I thought, I don't know that this thing is incorrect the way that it is. Maybe they have gone to a 2mm, and I picked up a 2mm axle, and it slides through pretty good.
Yeah, I just kept reaming it out for a regular size axle. I didn't even think about that.
Okay.
Interesting.
Thank you. That's my question for today.
All right.
For those who want to know about that, and I suppose that's a little bit of Club Corner. The first big race at Electric Dreams this year will be the second weekend of March, and that's the Scale Auto Challenge, which is for GT3 cars. And I think it's the weekend of, or whatever the second weekend is. I'll have to go look for it. Hold on. It's here it is. It's actually the first weekend of March. No, it's the second. So it's Friday. It starts Friday the 8th, Saturday the 9th, Sunday the 10th. And it's basically Friday is qualifying, Friday is practice, Saturday is qualifying, Sunday is racing. And the qualifying will be done like we did the last NSR race, or the last big one we had last year, where everybody runs a minute, and then we take the top 20 and we run them against each other again, and then we take the top 6 and we run those guys for lane choice in the A main. Well, for lane choice in the top heat, and thereafter on Sunday you go into the heat racing, and then the semis and main. So that should be good.
All righty.
That's me.
What would you like to talk about?
Just on the Scale Auto thing, I picked up the latest Corvette a little while ago, a couple of weeks ago, and put it on the test bench. And after about a minute there, I noticed the back wheels flopping all over the place. And I immediately took it off. No oilet on one of the sides there, so the actual oilet itself wasn't even in the setup. So whether or not it's a Friday 5 o'clock job and someone they're just picking parts up and leaving things out, I don't know. So that axle might actually be from something else and wasn't supposed to be in it. Yeah.
Tear down your cars before you put them on the bench.
Yeah, I couldn't believe it. I haven't had that sort of problems with cars for donkey's years. Yeah, all of a sudden now you got to double check it.
Yeah.
Have a good look at the box before you take it home.
All right, now Dewan, go ahead and get in before somebody else talks.
Yeah, hopefully my grandson's antics in the background don't overshadow my talking. Anyhow, just wanted to touch bases. I kind of had a little dialogue with our fearless leader, Mr. Greg Gobb, about our proposed worldwide slot car chat proxy. And I've kind of sketched out some guidelines, or I put together some guidelines that kind of fell out of that, and I just kind of want to run it by and see if we could get some consensus on it. And if necessary, we can just kind of, like, if need be, we can throw it up and have it in our little private chat or something like that before we move forward. But I'll just give you kind of a bit of an overview. One of the things that we probably like to make sure that's included in the proxy is that it stays with the theme of the organization, which is worldwide. I don't think that it would be a disservice to limit it.
Do you recall the name of the files you sent me?
Or just the geographical area. I think that we just need to, it's more involved and a lot more issues that have to be logistics and things like that have to be considered. I just feel that it should follow the theme of our organization being worldwide and open up to everyone, anyone that wants to participate from anywhere around the world. So that's the first thing. The other thing was trying to standardize on certain components that we want to have for the proxy versus optional components that we want to have open to the participants to have the flexibility of using whatever they want to have in it. So we want to be able to have it so that each person can have and show their uniqueness of their entry versus everything just being the same car with different colors on it. You know, that's not, I don't think there's a whole lot of excitement involved in that. So we want to have something that they can tune or put in their own little flavor to see what the performance comes out from their input versus having everything standardized and locked down like that. That I believe opens up to, you know, a little more excitement and people wanting to participate. So there'll be a series of things that should be standardized and a series of things that should be open and given the flexibility to allow the participants their input. So with that being said, I was going to propose using standardized chassis with standardized body that Brian Gipfrich has proposed earlier. I think that we should probably open up the options such as the motor choices and give people the flexibility because you're gonna have a variety. And we'll get to the options for tracks, but we want to have people have to get a little creative in their thinking about what motor might work better and what gearing might work better overall for the different tracks that we end up selecting. We could have a wide variety. We haven't pinned down those tracks yet, but nonetheless, we could potentially have a wide variety of wood tracks and long layouts and big straights versus plastic tracks with you know, curly and very technical and things of that nature. So looking at the mesh of the tracks, then each driver with each participant would have to take into account what they wanted to design for. And again, I'm a complete novice in the world of proxy, so I'm just shooting from the hip here, trying to put some guidelines together. But and I'm completely open for suggestions, anything outside of that. But the open options, I would think would be the motors, wheels, you know, wires, braids, guides. Well, maybe you know what? I think maybe we should standardize on the guides and give throw that into the masters in our group to submit a guide, which would be between Garth and Jeremy, and have them and just utilize their guides. Maybe we can make that as a standard. Just throwing it out there as something to consider. But the tires, I think maybe we could just at least standardize on it being all just your thing, because that seems to be like the universal standard for being able to go across multiple tracks and things of that nature. But we could either make that open your thing or just pick out a specific brand of your thing. But since we're having the wheels be flexible, kind of, you know, the tire sizes and wheels and all that can be part of the package. You know. And that's kind of a summary. You know, we could do modifications to, so we would basically receive, and I think we should put it should be a kitty or a fee rather that we pay to have the parts, the standardized parts that we want to get, such as the chassis and the body and all that stuff, as well as the offset some of the shipping costs that's going to be involved in carrying out the proxy. So I don't have a number there, but I think it should be a fairly calculated number that should be fair to assess all the participants so they would get their handout cards, basically, as well as covering all of the shipping costs for the conducting the proxy. And how many stops we make will also be a big factor in the shipping costs and things like that, and where they'll be located. I think that's pretty much I had in there.
I want to make sure you're aware of Chappie Man. I believe he was in here. I'm not sure if he's still here. If he's still here, he's been part of various other 3D printed proxy and has some help for you. So I think maybe doing some private conversations with Chappie Man, either here via Zoom or on Home Racing World forums or something like that. But I'm thinking, not having been the organizer of such things, probably want to, now that we kind of have a general idea of what the car is going to be, getting volunteers for the hosts for the tracks, so that then we know which countries the group of cars is going to have to be shipped to, so that we can figure out, the order of shipping across each country and between countries, particularly if we can get a handoff between the US and Canada, so that
hey, I think you were out last week when we talked about just having the first one just like one location for the whole, and instead of shipping everything worldwide, just have the first event wherever we pick, and then the second one maybe branching out a little.
Yeah, but then it's like, okay, well, like what Dewan was saying, how do you, if your car is going to end up going to other tracks, maybe you would have set your car up differently, knowing that it would be going to some other track than the one that you sent it to.
So we get 10 tracks, and the day before shipping is due, we randomize it. There you
go.
But yeah, I mean, there's gonna be costs in shipping no matter what. I mean, even if we did just one track, people from outside of the country that track is in are gonna have to ship their cars to that track, and depending on the bulk of the people participating and the location of that track, it might be more expensive than to do it at a different track, or might even be less expensive to do multiple tracks if we do the sequence of shipping in such a way as to maximize the differences in shipping costs. Like I was saying, if we could, like, if let's say we did one in the US, one in Canada, one in the UK, one in Australia, it's cheap to send into the US, but not cheap to send out of the US. So you'd have the first track be in the US, maybe your track, and then maybe there can be some kind of shipping to a intermediate location or something, or even physical, meetup to hand off between the US and Canada. So it's like, here, instead of spending, $50, $100 on shipping this package across the freaking border, here you go. And then it goes from there to, but anyways, we need to figure out who the hosts are going to be.
Yeah, I think the idea that we thought up, not as a, it was just thrown out as an idea, is maybe we walk before we run and we do a 5-race proxy series and they're all in Iowa.
Yeah.
We thought that?
Yeah, we did.
Oh.
Well, not Iowa, because they're all in the same place.
Oh, yeah.
5 different tracks.
The first 3D proxy that we ran 3 tracks here in Minneapolis. Now we've got 4 tracks here in Minneapolis, and it's branching out a little from that. So it's not a bad thing to start with a limited number of tracks, just so people have a chance to build. Because let me tell you, regardless of how standardized you make things, some people can build a car and other people really struggle with it. So it's all about trying to make it as even as possible.
One of the things that I like about proxies is exactly that. Learning from seeing other people's cars and how they put them together. There are always some that are better than mine, and there are always some that I think are not as good as mine. And I want to be a part of that. If I'm going to send a car in, at some point I want all the cars to pass through my fingers. So I'm kind of on board with just jumping in the deep end and obviously getting help from those who have done this kind of thing before, so that we're not just having to figure everything out for the first time ourselves. But there have been international proxies that have been run, so there are people with experience on making this kind of thing happen. So I'm on board with jumping in the deep end, getting tracks hosted in every country, multiple if possible, and just going whole hog. And if anybody out there wants to contribute their experience and knowledge on how to help us make that happen.
Well, it's easy to do, Greg. It's just very expensive. I mean, that's why IPS has fallen on hard times the last few years. Is doing a truly international proxy is very expensive, and it takes a very long time.
Yeah.
So I think people need to understand a truly international proxy is a major commitment of time and effort on the part of the organizer, as well as all of the various hosts. So it's certainly something where if you haven't done it before, doing 2 or 3 or 4 tracks, just so people have an opportunity to build a car and send it in. And, for those of us with a printer, to print our own car and build it and send it in is a big step in the right direction. And then you have an opportunity to work from that enthusiasm and user base, right?
Do you know what the entry fee was for the IPS?
IPS hasn't gone on for several years, but I think it was only 15 or 20 bucks.
Yeah.
But for the last 3D proxy, I think I charged 25 bucks. And that's going from, we did 4 tracks here in Minneapolis. So that was basically 0 cost, right? Once people showed up here. And then we've got tracks in Milwaukee and out in Oregon as well. And by the time you talk about that, you've got a little bit left over for, a Predator motor for everybody, but that's about it. You got to pay for the shipping to return them back too. So there's not a lot of margin in a $20 to $25 entry fee. That's why IPS dies, is because to get it all over the world, you're talking about a $50 or $75 entry fee, and that's a lot of money for proxy racing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one thing I was going to suggest was, I know we like urethanes, but rubber tie, the people in the UK, the people in Australia, if we standardize with slotted parts, the stock gear, they can have their car printed over there. They can buy the parts from Pendle or Armchair or whoever in their local area. And I think the Slim Can 18K motor is good. If it's US, it's Predator. If it's UK, it could be the SRC or whatever. I think we just need to do a little research on that. And then, yes, about the track hosting, the shipping to the countries are the bigger deals. It seems like everything ships cheaper out of Canada. Surprise. But the tracks that can do a personal handoff, those are easy ones. So we don't have to say it's going to be a 10 race series. We can, when it gets to the greater Northwest, Greg, you could run, Alan's got 6 tracks, right? I mean, and if it takes a year, who cares?
Well, I think we're going to keep talking about this, but for now, we're going to end the live stream. So everybody wave bye and say in next week, and then we're going to end the live stream, and it's over. So now we can